You interact with the physical world through thousands of small, successful moments. Think about a bicycle, a toilet flush system, or a simple zipper. Because you use these things every day without failure, your brain compresses that experience. It creates a quiet, unquestioned assumption: I get how this works. But there is a gap between recognizing how a system behaves and understanding the mechanics that make it happen. This assumption survives because daily life rarely requires us to unpack it. As long as the bicycle moves when you pedal, the underlying physics remain unexamined. This chart shows the illusion of explanatory depth. Perceived understanding sits at the top, while actual ability stays near the bottom. We lack deep knowledge, and simultaneously, we lack the awareness that it's missing. This sense of knowing follows familiarity. Because we use these things successfully, we assume we understand them, leaving our confidence unchallenged and untested. When researchers probed this blind spot, they asked participants to rate their understanding of common devices. Almost everyone gave themselves high marks. Participants had to provide a detailed mechanical explanation of how the device worked. As they tried to map the process, the logic fractured. Look at these internal steps. They didn't lose knowledge. They simply became aware of the void in their own understanding. The brain allows this because of computational efficiency. Storing detailed causal models for every object you see would be an enormous drain on mental resources. Instead, we rely on functional shortcuts that are good enough for daily use. There is also a social component to this lack of depth: cognitive outsourcing. Human cognition is distributed. We borrow understanding from the people and environment around us. As this boundary line dissolves, we fail to distinguish between what we personally know and what is known by the group. Our sense of competence is largely borrowed. We feel confident because the knowledge exists somewhere in our proximity, even if it isn't inside our own heads. This pattern extends into high-stakes abstract domains: political policies, economic systems, and personal beliefs. When researchers applied the same stress test to political convictions, the results were identical. People could argue for the outcomes of a policy, but they struggled to explain the actual mechanisms required to make that policy function. In these areas, beliefs act as psychological anchors. When that understanding is challenged, the brain often prioritizes defending the position over exploring the complexity. This dynamic changes in a digital environment, where we have instant access to a world of information. This flowchart maps a search. When we find an answer in an external database, the brain often registers that success signal as if the knowledge were stored internally. We mistake the act of looking something up for the act of possessing the knowledge ourselves. Constant access to information can actually hide our ignorance. We feel informed because the answer is reachable, even if we lack the explanatory depth to understand why that answer is true. There is a divide between these two timelines. The top is description, the sequence of what happens. The bottom is explanation, the causal structure. As the distance widens, the illusion of explanatory depth lives in this empty space between them. This shortcut is often an evolutionary necessity. If you had to explain the physics of internal combustion before turning a car key, you would never leave the driveway. The risk is applying this same shortcut to consequential decisions, like health choices or financial systems, where the details actually determine the outcome. The alternative is calibrated confidence. This isn't about knowing everything. It's about maintaining a precise awareness of exactly where your personal knowledge ends. Take a moment and choose a policy or belief you feel certain about. Now try to explain step by step the actual mechanism that makes it work. The line between actual understanding and the mere feeling of understanding is thin. Without testing the mechanisms, we rarely notice when we've crossed it.